Let's continue on Bahjat An-NaDHar. Bahjat An-NaDHar. I ask Allah to make this easy for me and for you. We're on question 24. The author says, speak about clearing Allah from imperfection. Okay. So that's a command that requires a response. So it's going to be called a question. And it's open. The answer is open. So you want to give a brief, clear answer. Speak about clearing Allah from imperfection. So how I would answer that question, I would say it is necessary to clear God from any non-befitting attribute, such as deafness, blindness, weakness, ignorance, or any attribute that is contrary to one of the attributes of his self. That's what crosses my mind to answer this question. The answer that's here is answer Allah is attributed with all proper perfection. Yes. He is clear of all imperfection. What's above that? What's the previous question? Allah is attributed with all proper perfection. Why was the word perfection qualified with proper? Okay. Okay. So this is a question about perfection. Number 23, what we covered last time. 24 is a question about imperfection. Allah is attributed with all proper perfection, and He is clear of all imperfection. He is clear of all that which does not befit Him. So that's what I said. Such as ignorance, powerlessness, place, space, color, and limit. Okay. I said weakness. I did say ignorance. I didn't mention place, space, color, or limit, but yani, I didn't want to talk too much. Imam Abu Ja'far al-Tahawi, who died in 322 after the Hijrah, which means he's from the Salaf, said, Allah is clear of boundaries, extremes. Extremes means edges. Sides, organs, and instruments. Instruments here means small organs. The six directions do not contain him, unlike the case of all the created things. It means Allah is not limited. Hence, He is clear of sitting. Because whoever is attributed with sitting has to be limited. Imam Ali, may Allah raise his rank, said, Allah created the throne, yani the ceiling of paradise, i.e. the arsh, to show His power or to demonstrate or as a demonstration of His power, and did not take it as a place for Himself. Imam Abu Mansur al-Baghdadi mentioned that statement in his book Al-Farqu Bayn al-Firaq after he had conveyed the consensus about clearing Allah of places and limits. Okay. So this answer is mostly about clearing Allah from limits. Though the question is broadly about clearing Allah from imperfection. So where it says here, He is clear of all that does not befit Him. You take out the word which if you want. Such as ignorance, powerlessness, place, space, color, and limit. This answers the question. Then everything after that focused on limits, clearing Him from limits. Okay. That's one thing. Now, this answer documents what was reported about Imam Ali, that he said, Allah created the Arsh as a demonstration of his power, and he did not take it as a place for himself. Yeah, okay. That's fine. I'm not going to comment on that. In my mind, I was thinking of the other statement of Ali. كان الله ولا مكان وهو الآن على ما عليه كان. Allah was and there was no place, and he is now as he was. But that's not the statement that's here, so I'm not going to comment on it. I'm going to keep moving. Question 25. What is the meaning of Allah's saying in Surah Shura, verse 11? لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٍ. Okay, my answer is this verse means nothing is whatsoever like Allah in any way. Period. Yani, that's short, clear answer. Let's see what's here. It says, it means that Allah is not similar to any tangible or intangible things, nor the upper world, nor the lower world, the upper world, which is the heavens, nor the lower world, which is the earth and what's below the earth. Okay, that's true. That's correct. Allah Ta'ala said in Surah Al-Ikhlas. So now this is further information. Yani, the question is answered. وَلَمْ يَكُنْ لَهُ كُفُوًا أَحَدٌ. Verse 4. This verse means Allah has no similar to him in any way. Okay. That is, there is nothing at all similar to Allah. What I think would be nice, though, is to switch the words around here. We have the word similar here. Then we have the word similar here and the word similar here. So you could say, for example, it means that Allah is not similar to any tangible or intangible things, nor the upper world, nor the lower world. Okay. That answers the question. Then it says down here, this verse means Allah has no similar to him in any way. You could say, for example, to switch the word likeness. And down here, you could say, for example, comparable. This is considered to be good English, meaning to not use the same word again and again. That's standard, quote unquote, good English. Any English teacher would, for example, tell you on your paper, change these words out, switch them. Don't keep saying the same one. Imam Dhunnun al-Misri and Imam Ahmad said, whatever you imagine in your mind, Allah is different from it. Okay. Imam al-Tahawi said in his book, Al-Aqidatu Tahawiyah, the one who attributes to Allah an attribute of mankind is a blasphemer. So these are all references to support the meaning of Laysa Kamislihi Shay. But as for answering the question, it's answered up to the first period there. Question 26. Speak about Allah's attributes of hearing and sight. My answer for that is Allah is attributed with the attributes of hearing and sight. This means he hears anything hearable, and he sees anything seeable. And I would say these are real attributes and not merely a negation of deafness and blindness. When we say he is attributed with hearing and sight, we are not merely negating that he is deaf or blind, but we are really confirming two attributes of his. And these attributes are not senses. They are not senses and they are not powers. Rather, they are attributes of his, by which he hears everything hearable and sees everything seeable. So that's my answer. It says here, answer 26. Allah said in Surah Shura, verse 11, لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٌ وَهُوَ السَّمِيعُ الْبَصِيرُ. The verse means there is absolutely nothing like him, and he is attributed with hearing and sight. Allah said about himself that there is not anything similar to him, and he is attributed with hearing and sight. In the verse, Allah firstly negated that he is similar to any created thing in any way, and then attributed hearing and sight to himself. This indicates that the hearing and sight of Allah uh, this indicates that the hearing of Allah is not similar to the hearing of the creations, and his sight is not similar to the sight of the creations. Or you could say, and his sight is not similar to their sight. Period. Likewise, none of the attributes of Allah are similar to the attributes of his creations. Allah hears all the audible things without the need for an ear or any other instrument. He sees all the visible things without the need for a pupil or a ray of light. Okay. So I say the answer to the question is here. The question is, speak about Allah's attributes of hearing and sight. Allah hears all the audible things without the need for an ear or any other instrument. He sees all the visible things without the need for a pupil or a ray of light. Okay, and what about all of this then? All of this, though it is speaking about the attribute of hearing and sight, it's actually, though, more of an explanation of the ayah. All of this talk is as if the question is, explain the ayah. لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٌ وَهُوَ السَّمِيعُ الْبَصِيرُ. And then you're going to say all of what's here. This verse means there's absolutely nothing like him, and he is attributed with hearing and sight. Allah said about himself that nothing is like him in any way. Yani first. Oh, wait. In the verse, Allah firstly negated, etc. All of what we read here. However, it is open because it says speak about it. Any questions so far? But this does remind me about how a person would pose a question or introduce a topic, and then he waits, it doesn't get right to the issue. Because I find the answer, the very direct response to the question to be all the way at the end. I personally don't prefer that. Someone opens a topic and then he starts talking about something, and I'm waiting for him to get to the point. And I hope my comments and maybe some criticisms here are not disrespectful. I don't mean to be disrespectful at all. Rather, I just want to benefit you and pull this apart. Question 27. Speak about the saying of the author, Allah exists without a beginning, and everything else exists with a beginning. He is the creator, and everything else is a creation. Okay. I would say Allah exists without a beginning means he is not created. He is the one existing without being created. And everything else exists with a beginning. Beginning means everything else started. Everything else is an event or an occurrence or something that happened. He is the creator. That means he is the one who brings things into existence from nothingness. And everything else is a creation. Everything else is something that was brought forth into being from nothingness. And therefore, nothing else creates anything. Let's see what the answer is here. Answer: one must believe that Allah is the only one who is eternal. Bismillah. So let's see how the answer is here. It says, one must believe that Allah is the only one who is eternal. Yes. Allah is the only one whose existence is without a beginning. Correct. That's the same thing twice. Saying the same thing twice. That's fine. That's how you make your statement clear. That's how you make your point clear. You'll say something and then you might say the same thing in another way. So you are reiterating what you are saying. That's fine. And everything else is a creation. Every creation that exists, be it among entities or deeds, from the fine dust to the ceiling of paradise, and every movement, rest, intention, and thought of the slaves are created by Allah. Yes, that's taken directly from the text of the summary of obligatory knowledge, as you probably know, insha'Allah ta'ala. Hence, no one other than Allah, be it nature or cause, creates anything. Things become existent by Allah's eternal will, power, and knowledge, as mentioned in the Quran in Surah Al-Furqan, verse 2. وَخَلَقَ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ. The verse means He brought all the creation from the state of non-existence into the state of existence. Imam An-Nasafi said, if a person hit glass with a stone and broke it, then the acts of hitting and breaking and the state of being broken were created by Allah. Okay. So, what happened here? Yani, part of benefiting from these questions and answers is being familiar with the text, the summary of obligatory knowledge in the first place, so that you see where the question is coming from. Like we even saw in one spot a question that's not even in the text. So, yeah, because of knowing the text, you're going to know that this question is not from the text, or these questions are from the text. Most of them are directly from the text. This one is speak about what the author said. Allah exists without a beginning, and everything else exists with a beginning. He is the creator, and everything else is a creation. Okay. And I found the answer uh, to this command here. One must believe that Allah is the only one who is eternal. Allah is the only one whose existence is without a beginning. Yani, you could put a semicolon here. Since it's saying the same thing twice, and the second time is like clarification of the first time, you can put a semicolon. One must believe that Allah is the only one who is eternal. Yani, you can even remove Allah is right here. The only one whose existence is without a beginning. Every creation that exists, wait, and everything else is a creation. All right. Okay. Everything else is a creation. This does not answer what's here. It's repeating what is here. So this needs to be explained. Yani, speak about what this means. Allah exists without a beginning. Okay. Allah is the only one who is eternal. Yes. That answers that part. Allah is the only one whose existence is without a beginning. Yes. This answers this part. Everything else exists with a beginning. Allah is the only one without a beginning. Then therefore everything else, if He's the only one, then everything else exists with a beginning. Okay. And everything else is a creation. And it says here, and everything else is a creation. So this part doesn't clarify this part because it's the same exact words. Everything else is a creation, then everything else is a creation. What does that mean? Well, it goes on to say here, every creation that exists, like here, things become existent. Yani everything else that exists becomes existent by Allah's will, power, and knowledge. There's answered. And in between, we have a lot of words here. Every creation that exists, be it among entities or deeds, from the fine dust to the ceiling of paradise, and every movement, rest, intention, and thought of these slaves are created by Allah. Okay, everything else is a creation. Still, though, because when you say it's created by Allah, everything else is a creation. Yeah, it's created by Allah. There's a circle there. What does it mean it's created by Allah? It means it's a creation. What does it mean that's a creation? It means it's created by Allah. So there's a circle there, which is not necessarily bad. But here, this part clarifies that they become existent by his eternal will, power, and knowledge. Or this statement here, he brought all the creation from the state of non-existence into the state of existence. That answers it. What does it mean to say everything else is a creation? It means he brought all the creation, yani all the things, if you want, from the state of non-existence into the state of existence. Just the point that I'm trying to make to you here is, there's several points here. One of them is to change your words. If you are answering a question, don't answer the question with the exact same words of the question. Yeah, you can reintroduce the question into your answer. You can reintroduce the question into your answer, but switch the words out so that there's not a circle between the question and the answer. Then your answer is going to be clear. Although sometimes it's clear with the circle. Otherwise, all of these words, they have a lot of meaning. There's a lot of meaning here. Because here, every creation that exists, be it among entities, what does that mean? And we could ask, we could put questions here. What's the meaning of entity? Or deeds? What's the meaning of the deed? What's the meaning of the fine dust? What is the ceiling of paradise? So this answer depends on you knowing what all these words mean. And every movement, rest, intention, and thought of the slaves are created by Allah. Okay. And we can assume you know what these words mean. These are easy, simple, basic words. The entities, meaning things that have volume. That's what's meant here by entity. Deeds, meaning actions. The fine dust, that's the dust that you see when the sun shines through the window. The ceiling of paradise is the arsh, or now I like canopy. Ceiling implies that it's closed, while the arsh is over paradise, not sitting on top of paradise and closing it. It's over paradise. And every movement and rest. Rest here means motionlessness, stillness, intention. You know what an intention is. And thought. You know what those are. All of that is created by Allah. And what's the point of all these examples? All these examples cover what has volume, that means exists independently, and what exists by extension of what has volume. Extension, is that right? Extension. It's with a T or an S. What exists by volume means exists independently. What exists by extension, I think there's a T there. What exists by extension of something else, what exists by extension of something else doesn't have volume, like movement and intention and thoughts. That doesn't have volume, but it does exist. So these examples cover things with volume and things that exist by extension of things with volume, not having their own volume though. And covers what's deliberate, intentional, and what is versus what's not deliberate. Hence, no one other than Allah, be it nature or cause, creates anything. What's nature? That's a valid question too to pose here. What's nature? Nature is the norm by which Allah created the world. Cause. What is cause? Cause is a creation that leads to a creation. Allah is not a cause. We don't say Allah has a cause. People who have a stronger aqidah, a stronger comprehension of aqidah, they don't say Allah is the cause, because the cause is a creation that leads to a creation. Like fire causes burning. Fire is a creation, leads to a creation, which is the burning. Nature doesn't create anything, cause doesn't create anything. Things become existent by Allah's eternal will, power, and knowledge. That's the meaning of He is the creator. He makes them exist by His will, power, and knowledge. And everything else is a creation. And Imam An-Nasafi is cited here. He said, if a person hit glass with a stone and broke it, then the acts of hitting and breaking in the state of being broken were created by Allah. Okay. So, personally, I find the answer wordy. There's a point to this answer, which is to reinforce what's in the text by what is in the text. Yani, the question is, the author said this. What does it mean? And then an amount of the text was produced to explain what the author said in the text. Okay, that's fair. I just find that the answer itself can be condensed and clarified. And condensed and clarified. Yani, let me repeat. Speak about the saying of the author. Allah exists without a beginning, and everything else exists with a beginning. He is the creator, and everything else is a creation. Okay. So speak about that means explain it, clarify it. So piece by piece, Allah exists without a beginning means He exists without being created. He has an uncreated existence. And everything else exists with a beginning, meaning everything else is created, or everything else happened, or everything else started, or everything else is an occurrence. He is the creator, meaning He is the one that brought things from non-existence into existence. And everything else is a creation, yani everything else is something that was brought into existence from non-existence. Now the question is answered clearly, briefly, clearly and briefly. And as for all of what's here that's taken out of the text, it's possible to make many questions from this, what's in the text. Important questions too, like I told you. What's, I think, some of the most important questions here? If I don't want to try to produce every single question I could out of what's here, that's in the text. What are maybe some of the most important questions that could be here? What's the meaning of entity? And what's the meaning of nature? And what's the meaning of cause? Those are important questions here. Otherwise, we can still pull out more questions. What's meant by divine dust? Things become existent by Allah's will, power, and knowledge. We covered the will, power, and knowledge already. As mentioned in the Quran in Surah Al-Furqan, verse 2, وَخَلَقَ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ. He created everything. Yani, He brought all the creation from the state of non-existence into the state of existence. Then we have the quote of Imam An-Nasafi here. This quote also, an important question or two can be taken from it. In fact, I have a question from here. Bonus question. May Allah answer the dua of the one who answers this question. And I'll give you a 10 count. What is the name of this case? What is the name of the case that Imam An-Nasafi is talking about? What is the name of the case that Imam An-Nasafi is talking about here? The name of the case. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So the name of the case is Tawallud. Tawallud. What is that? Tawallud, it means something to the effect of generated effect, meaning cause and effect, or domino effect, if you want. What did he say? If a person hit glass with a stone and broke it, that's what he's right there. He hit glass with a stone and he broke it, meaning the breaking of the glass is a result of his hitting it with the stone. The stone hit the glass because he threw it, for example. So a person hit glass with a stone and broke it. Then the acts of hitting and breaking and the state of being broken were created by Allah. This is called tawallud. And this case of tawallud is not something that the people of the prophetic way talked about. Ahlus Sunnah. It's not an issue for us. That's not an issue for us, the Sunni Muslims. Imam An-Nasafi mentioned it because it was an issue for some other people that needs to be clarified. The Mu'tazila, they believed that the one who hit the glass with the stone and broke it is the creator of the breaking in the glass. So that's the meaning of tawallud, which is a Mu'tazili case, not a Sunni case. The Sunnis refuted this case, like Imam An-Nasafi did here. Their belief is that if there were a row of dominoes, then the one who tipped over the first domino created the falling of the last domino and everything in between. Then question 28. Speak about the attribute of speech, the kalam of Allah Ta'ala. Okay. And this needs, the short answer is long, is lengthy. The short answer for this is a lengthy one. If you want to answer this, including everything that needs to be included, then it needs to be slightly lengthy. Because when you say the attribute of the speech of Allah, then you're going to say, the way I would answer this question is, the speech of Allah is his attribute by which he speaks, first of all. And there's a circle in there, though. Supposing you know what speaking means, then I can settle with that. It's his attribute by which he speaks. His speech is his attribute by which he speaks, but without letters or sounds or languages, without a beginning and without an end. Okay, so that's one thing, but it's not complete. Yani, on a very, very bare minimum level, then I could stop there. Maybe I would. The speech of Allah is his attribute by which he speaks, without letters or sounds or languages. This speech is unlike the speech of the creations. It doesn't come from a direction, for example, like this. It's possible to stop here, but really the issue is not finished. It's important and very relevant to say another thing. This attribute of speech, it has a name. It can be called Al-Quran. And when I say that, it's not referring to the book. I'm not talking about the book that we recite. I'm still talking about the attribute of God, which is his speech. It has a name, Al-Quran. This is very relevant. Then, something else. And this word Al-Quran has another meaning, another usage, which it also refers to the revealed book. Then there's another thing. And in fact, if we say the speech of Allah, Kalamullah, that also can refer to the revealed book. So the word Al-Quran has a meaning, has two meanings. Could refer to the attribute of Allah or to the revealed book. And the word speech of Allah has two meanings, can refer to the attribute of Allah and can refer to the revealed book. And I would say, but the first meaning for Quran is the attribute of Allah, not the revealed book. Contrary to what you might imagine. Because if I say to you Al Quran, first thing that might come to your mind is the revealed book. But really, the first religious meaning of Al Quran is the speech of Allah. The revealed book is named after the speech of Allah, Al Quran. The revealed book being called Al Quran is being named after the God's attribute of speech, which is called Al Quran. And you could possibly mention another detail. And in fact, all of the revealed books refer to the speech of Allah. So that's my answer, trying to keep it brief. And saying all of that, I'm afraid that the person didn't understand all of what I'm saying. If those are new concepts to a person, maybe he doesn't really understand all of what I'm really saying. Or maybe he doesn't really understand all of what I'm saying. So I might just settle with saying, let's say I met a person on the street and he took a shahada and I told him about the attributes of Allah quickly. I might just settle with telling him Allah has the attribute of speech. It's not sounds or letters or languages. And he speaks by this speech, and he can enable you to hear his speech if he will. On Judgment Day, everyone will hear the speech of God. He will question them about what they did in this life. I think that's also an important detail. All the creations will hear the speech, all the people, the humans and the jinn, will hear the speech of Allah on Judgment Day. He will question them about their deeds. But if I wanted to keep it as simple as possible, I'll probably just say like that. It's his attribute that's not like the attributes of the creations. It's not sounds, not languages, not letters. It doesn't come from a direction, and he can enable you to hear it if he willed. And you will understand whatever he willed for you to understand. Let's see the answer that's here. Answer: Imam Abu Hanifa said in his book Al-Fiqh al-Akbar, and he speaks with a speech unlike ours. Yes. We speak with instruments and letters from exits. As for Allah Ta'ala, He speaks without an instrument or letters. Yes. Allah speaks with a speech that is not similar to our speech. So that's reiteration. Not similar to our speech, unlike ours. His eternal and everlasting speech is without a beginning and without an end. That's also repetitive. It's okay though. Because eternal means without a beginning, everlasting without an end. His eternal and everlasting speech is without a beginning and without an end. It's like saying, his speech, which is without a beginning and without an end, is eternal and everlasting. Same thing. It's fine though. Yani, as long as you're not treating your audience like they're stupid or something. Don't talk down to a person. You can speak clearly. You can reiterate what you are saying. And Yani, I advise you grant the person that he's not stupid. Talk to him like he's not stupid. If you find that he's slow or stupid, then adjust your talk. Because some people they are stupid without being offensive here. Yeah, I could use a nicer word than stupid, but Yani, it is what it is. It says here, silence or interruption does not occur to his speech. Silence here meaning not speaking. Otherwise, because silence can mean no sound. The word silence can mean no sound. His speech is not a sound, but it's not called silence though. Because it is not a letter or a sound. Rather, it is an eternal attribute of Allah. The speech of Allah is not similar to the speech of the creation, which we said that. The speech of Allah is not similar to the speech of the creation. It says here, He speaks with a speech that is not similar to our speech. And in the quote of Imam Abu Hanifa, he speaks with a speech unlike ours. So it said the same thing 3 times in the same paragraph. That's okay. You can do it without treating the one who's listening to you like he's dumb. Just it's only for clarity and to help him remember. Allah said in Surah An-Nisa, verse 164, وَكَلَّمَ اللَّهُ مُوسَى تَكْلِيمًا. Yeah, and my answer that I got 7 points out of it doesn't address an ayah or a hadith. If I wanted to put an ayah or a hadith in there, then I'll add another element there. Here they gave us an ayah. The verse means Allah spoke, it says spoke directly to Musa. I just feel like might make someone imagine a direction between God and Moses. Or that the speech comes from a direction. While the meaning of directly here is without an intermediary. Doesn't mean a direction. It means without an intermediary. The way I usually translate this ayah is Allah spoke a speech to Moses. Very literal. وَكَلَّمَ اللَّهُ مُوسَى تَكْلِيمًا. God spoke a speech to Moses, meaning God spoke to Moses. Allah spoke to Musa with his eternal and everlasting speech, and Musa heard it without it being a sound or a letter or a language. Wallahu alam. Allah knows best. Any question? Yeah, so when you go over the creed, if you are teaching or learning, and you get to the topic of the speech of Allah, take your time there. Anticipate that needs some time. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdik. أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك